Slowly it rises.
Hey, it's ODB, the Lincoln Addict, back with another video. And as the thumbnail for this here on YouTube indicated, basically going to look at, is buying a project 60s Lincoln, especially in this case a convertible, is it worth it? What will you end up spending potentially? And it's all going to tie back to this listing review, which is on eBay. I haven't done as many of these simply because, in my opinion, Bring a Trailer has become the go-to place to sell cars. There are still going to always be cars on eBay. There's going to be some on Facebook Marketplace. I'm sure even in your area, Craigslist might still be one of the hot spots, if you will. But what I want to do first is take a look at this 65 Lincoln Continental convertible. What we can see is we are missing some trim on the outside. So the trim that usually goes here, we can see almost probably an older paint job, I think is what the description explains to us. We also see some misalignment of the front bumper, especially the bumper ends. We see the windows are up, which typically, if the top is down, indicates that the windows do not work. We see a little misalignment here, potentially on the fuel filler door. So we'll look at that. We see something going on back here a little bit, probably the exhaust of some sort. Wide white wall tires, which of course aren't going to, tickle everyone's fancy, so to speak. We can see here the car almost looks like, I don't know if it's just the way it's parked. It looks like it's leaning to the driver's side just a little bit. It could be a low tire. We can see here that it has some deck lid stuff going on, right, with some rust. And this is something that you will see, and I've kind of talked about this in the past. We also happen to get a glance of something going on here with the bumper. I don't know what someone would have done over the course of time to put additional taillights in, is what it looks like. Not sure why they would do that, because these the taillights on 65 are here with the cages, if you will, kind of the decorative difference between 1, 2, 3, and 4, which were almost pretty much the same visually. And then you have 65 with these quote cages, but certainly very odd going on here. Not sure what that is. What I'll try to do is click back here, and I kind of hate how eBay does this. Sometimes it's not as efficient as Bring a Trailer when clicking through all this stuff. So let's do this. So we can see here again, misalignment of that front bumper end. Definitely something going on here, very odd. We can see again the trim is missing here. There's no wheel covers. Windows are up, again indicating more than likely there's no power to the main switch, which is kind of a common thing in these cars, especially if they haven't really been well cared for. What we could see here is you'll typically see this on the convertibles. I haven't talked a lot about it, maybe not to this extent, but when the top is up, right, this is where it rests. This is where the framing rests. And again, typically, you're not going to see like rust and things like that here, even surface rust. But what you will basically, sometimes see is you will see a little bit of an indication here that, this is where the top sits. This you can see here, there's a rust hole. And there's definitely a lot going on here, which would be concerning, right, if you were looking at purchasing this. This is kind of the money shot that we typically are accustomed to seeing. However, here you've got the 4 doors open. We can clearly see the front bucket seats have been changed to a more modern bucket seat. We could tell from the framing. We could tell from everything. The rears do look factory seat wise, but of course, there's some work going on, if you will. We could see here we are missing, at least on this side, and probably with each of them, the control panel. So you're going to have, this is where the window, you'll be able to put it up or down. This is also where you're going to have your cigarette lighter back here. Yes, that was a thing back then. We can see here, according to the odometer, it looks like it has 79,000. It would be hard to tell if that's true, because we we don't know if the odometer cable has always worked. Your guess is as good as mine. This does give us an indication here that it has tilt column. It's been speculated that maybe 10% of these cars had tilt column. It's hard to say. The records no longer exist, so it is hard to say. We get one of the very few underneath the cars, and this doesn't look as bad as maybe I thought it would be, especially that this car is in Connecticut right now. We can see the top is up here. I do believe that in the description, which isn't very detailed, it does say that the top is not working. So it would be interesting to see if they did that manually. We can see, again, a lot is going on with this deck lid. These deck lids, if you purchase, and you can even find one for these cars because they're typically 1 year only in most cases. 65 is, for an example. There's a lot going on here, and if you could even find one, I mean, there's somewhere easily $2,500 to $5,000 just for the deck lid. Okay, we can see again here the windows up, top up. Here's the driver's side. A lot of dinginess, and that's a little concerning. That's like, how was this car kept over the course of time? What we can see is it does have some mats in here, so it's hard to tell if this is original carpet. Again, very, very dingy. Now, what we can see in the engine bay is this actually is an air-conditioned car, but the compressor is off. We also see that it does not have a fan shroud, which is not a good thing. You would want to have a fan shroud on an AC car. We can see it has the 2-port, not the 3-port. We do see someone spent the money and they got the Detroit Deviant covers. Our friend James, who was the first guest on the podcast a few years back, he makes these nice covers, and they can be very nice on a nice car. We could see underneath here, doesn't give us a lot. We can see the normal grittiness of probably some harsh winters and things like that. The top is in the trunk here. So we do pick up here that there's a few parts, including the air conditioning compressor. Don't really have a lot of visual underneath the deck lid. I would like to see that a little bit more. And then this is one of the photos that would definitely be concerning, that it has some rust. So a few things I want to point out. For 65, you have the most sedans and the most convertibles produced, from that 60 era Lincoln, right? So you have 36,824 sedans. That's the most for that run. You have 3,356 convertibles. So 3,356. And that was a record eclipsing 64. Because 64, they came in at 3,328, just a smidge under where 65 hit, okay? Now, this car knew, if it was a non-AC car and it just was the factory, this is what you get, no extra features. These cars went for about $6,300, okay? They're asking $21,000 on this. If we go over to Haggerty and we look at 65, which is a very desirable year, you're going to see this range has went up over the course of time, and it continues to go up. Now, I will say, again, Haggerty always calls out 10% for, so you would add a 10% on for an AC car. Now, I think we would all agree this is certainly a project car. And the reason why I wanted to do this video is you can see where these car prices are now. If somebody were to jump in on this thing at, let's just say they make a deal at $20,000. Okay. To me, you're going to easily have $50,000 in this car. Okay. And that's something that you have to keep in mind. So if you jump over here and you go, well, okay, let's say an excellent condition car is $76,000, and some people freak out when they see the prices sell for $50,000, $60,000, and so on and so forth. Would you rather spend $60,000 and get a very nice turnkey car? You put the top down, you put the windows down, you're enjoying the day with your family, right? Or if you come over here, at least with current prices, now granted, who knows what this car is really worth, right? That's the hard thing. Even if you were to get it for $10,000, okay, I can tell you, if you went to a local shop and said, hey, let's push this car in, let's drive this car in, let's strip it down to bare bones, to bare metal, let's repair all the rust, let's go through the engine, let's do all the stuff you got to do, right? The new timing setup, there's there would be so much to do on this car, right? And really, really dial it in. I could tell you on nice cars, I'm hearing people getting quotes for a nice old Lincoln in Florida, easily $20,000 to $30,000 paint job, right? So let's just say you were to spend 10 grand on this car. You put 25, 30, if not way more, depending on how bad the rust is. Before you know it, you're going to be certainly passing this, quote, good condition, and you're going to be starting to get up into this excellent condition. Now, even if you said, hey, I'm looking to buy this car, I'm going to take the engine out, I'm going to do a modern drivetrain, Coyote, LS, whatever you want. I'm going to redo the interior. I'm going to get the top working. I'm going to get all the windows working. I'm going to do it kind of bare bones, bare budget. Okay, I get it if you're going to do all the work yourself, but you got to keep this in mind. What we don't know is how much rust is up underneath this thing. It's really hard to see. Over here looks like a little bit's going on. My point is that you really have to think about, if you're looking to get one of these cars in the next 1 to 2 years, maybe 5 or 10 years, you really got to look at some of the cars and look at the market and see where these cars are selling for. We've seen some great deals on Bring a Trailer, okay? But I'm telling you, if you were to buy a car like this, my 64 was in a lot better condition than this, and I have at least 50,000 in it, redoing the engine, redoing all the stuff that I've done, and it doesn't even have a paint job. I've left it patina, okay? So that's something to keep in mind. Now, I always suggest, too, you look at the seller, and here they have 2125 ratings. We can open that up. It opens into a new tab, and one of the things I noticed is they've got a 64 Porsche listed for $17,000. We can see the Lincoln in the background. You can see this home. Not sure if it's abandoned or if this is, you can see clearly whoever this was, they were kind of a hoarder of projects and cars and stuff, which, hey, to each their own. I'm a hoarder in my own right. And, you can see a couple of other projects here, and it kind of gives a little bit of indication into, is this like an estate sale? Is this something where these cars have sat out a long time? Certainly this one shows the Lincoln inside a garage, which is a good thing. But I'd always recommend that you check the ratings. Oftentimes people say, hey, I'm looking for a Lincoln. I don't really have the money to buy a high-end car, but I want to get something that I can work on over the course of time. Certainly totally get it. But even the 10 years ago me wouldn't want to take on a project this big. And it's certainly, when you start looking at photos like this, where there's a lot going on, not just, quote, surface rust, that's definitely alarming, right? It's definitely concerning. You start looking at something that, has been kind of played with a little bit, and people have done some things already. Obviously, the front seats changed and things like that. You really start to get into a lot of unknown. So my final word is, let me know what you think in the comments. Like, what do you think a car like this is worth? It's in Connecticut, okay? Years ago, you could pick a convertible up like this in this type of condition for $5,000, right? People would probably look at you crazy if you offered them $5,000 now. But my point is only that you got to look at some of the nicer cars or the mid-tier cars, because if you get a car like this, you start calling Lincoln Land, our friends there, and you're piecemealing all of the pieces that are missing. Again, there's a lot of trim that's missing on this car on the exterior. You could easily balloon just with your parts list to a very high cost. And then, oh, by the way, now I got to get all this put on. I got to get the car painted. I got to get it stripped down. And when you have a nice body shop that starts stripping a car down and they start finding rust and they go, oh boy, we don't want to go any further. These are unibody cars. So again, we don't know how good or bad this thing is. Nothing against the seller. Good luck to them. But certainly this is one that I would pass on. ODB, I'm the Lincoln Addict. Stay on the rise, everyone. Take care.